Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us David Duford, who's the author of The Official Guide to Selling Insurance for New Agents. David, welcome to the program.
Greetings and salutations. How you doing?
Hey, doing awesome. I'm looking forward to chatting with you because I always love to hear about, the official guide or how-tos and how, cut through the clutter and show the, clues to success. Before we get into your book and the what you do for agents, give us a little bit of your background and what was your entrepreneurial journey leading up to this point.
Sure. So I come from a family of entrepreneurs and salespeople, so it's kind of in the blood to start and create my own business. Well, I first started out of college. I didn't want to go work the 9-to-5 grind, so I started a personal training business right at about the time that the Great Recession hit, if you remember, 15 years ago or so, and struggled through that until I eventually tapped out and couldn't take it anymore. And in the process of getting out of that business, I stumbled across the insurance business. I never dreamed of wanting to sell insurance. I couldn't think of a product I was less interested in. But desperate times call for desperate measures. And I stumbled across a product called Final Expense Life Insurance. It was a very interesting market, a large market, growing market with seniors getting older and needing final expense coverage. And I jumped in first as an agent, and then eventually as an agency owner, where I transitioned from just selling to then building a team. And fast forward 10 years now, we train agents nationally. I'm an influencer on YouTube, and it's been a wonderful ride.
I remember those times really well as far as the downturn, because I was in the mortgage banking industry with JP Morgan Chase, and it just dried up. It just went gone. And so my pivot was getting my MBA in marketing and going down that path. And yours was, a little known thing called final expense. Who would have thought, right? But yet, is it unique enough and kind of obscure enough that it really created a niche for you to carve out and kind of stamp your reputation in the industry and then build from there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting product. It's a mass market product, but it's old-fashioned. The insurance business isn't known as being the forefront of technology or, advancement. It kind of operates on old principles, just basic fundamentals, of course. But there was a lot of room, as I just luckily stumbled into, where there really wasn't a lot of guidance and coaching available for agents. Most agents come into this insurance business similar to a multi-level marketing direct sales operation.
Yeah.
Where there's more hype around recruiting people around you instead of learning how to sell. And so I just got lucky in a sense and noticed that and created my USP around helping agents sell versus helping them recruit other people to then go recruit other people. So I've just stuck with that as my core principle. And it's been great.
It's really an interesting way to put that, because that takes like a keen sense of observation, and it reminds me of something from way, way, way back in the olden days. I'm 53, and I remember you would see these solicitations. Learn how to blah blah blah, make this much money in this much time, and when you looked at it or clicked on it or whatever, all it was teaching you how to do the same thing, which is basically, request people to send you $10 for the report, which is really just written about how to then send more people to get them to do the exact same thing. And there's no substance. So to your point about recruiting, why don't you go out and do the thing? Go out and be good and sell that and have what we call today proof of concept. Now you can say, look, been there, done that. Went to the school of hard knocks, figured out how to do it the right way, had some failures. Let me come alongside you and guide you. So that's what you have done there, and I think that is the best way to have someone kind of engage with your brand and really have that believability.
Well, and thank you. I kind of look at this business, and I'm sure there's a lot of parallels with other businesses. The insurance sales business is full of doubt and misinformation, a lack of transparency, because there's this push to, like you've described, to recruit one person on recruit on one level, but then how it's actually delivered is entirely different. And what I try to focus on is bringing value first, giving away without expectation of anything in return. As strange as that may sound, it actually works. If you help people and you're sincere in your effort and you're consistent in that delivery, people naturally are attracted to you, and it cuts through all the concern and the question, the lack of transparency, and people really want to work with you ultimately. And it's a great strategy that's worked for me wonderfully.
Have you ever read that book, Building the Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes? Chet Holmes, yeah. What you just described there was way back when he was, 60s or 70s, in the 1960s or 70s. He was one of the front runners of stop selling and help and educate and be an advocate for your target audience and teach them and give them information and help them make a decision. And when you do that, it's the right thing anyway, because, the old used car salesperson, what's it going to take to get you into this car today? Nobody responds to that, or shouldn't. So when the prospect sees that, oh, you know what? Old David's got that product he was telling me about, and he gave me some good things to think about. It attracts them to you even more, and it builds that trust. And I think that it's more than just a cliche that people should do, because you've proven it out, and salespeople over and over and over, because I feel like you kind of need to sell the way that you would prefer to buy. And you and me would not want to buy anything like that and be pushed. We want to make a decision, but we want to make it that educated decision. Like Jeffrey Gitomer says, people like to buy, but they don't like to be sold.
Right. Yeah, the downside of this strategy, though, is that it takes time.
Yeah.
Anything now, I say downside, but it's actually good, because time separates you from your competition, who is looking for the immediate gain, the immediate upside. Whereas if you focus on value delivery without expectation of anything in return, it's a long-term strategy. It took me years before I had any sort of traction in my niche, but the outcome is I'm a well-known person inside of the world of insurance sales. And I look at myself as nothing special. I just do what I say I'm going to do, and I execute on it for years on end. And that alone is enough of an edge to separate you from the pack. Yeah. And
well, it's been said, what's easy to do is easy not to do. And it's like, it's not brain surgery. It's not rocket science. It's like, should be simple things. Why don't you return a phone call? Why don't you, sell or educate this way? Why don't you return emails? Why aren't you? Those are not, exponentially hard to do, but they're so easy and commonplace that people kind of look at it and go, tell me the real secret. But well, sometimes it's like the old football analogy, blocking and tackling. Just get really good at that, and then you can start doing some little extras and whatnot.
It's funny how the fundamentals are the fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
We look at sports. My sport is jiu-jitsu, and we have the same argument in jiu-jitsu. There's a multitude of submissions and movement patterns you can learn, but they pale in comparison with the core collection of movement patterns that can be used in different positions that are worthy of being practiced thousands of times. Whereas mastery comes from picking the core patterns, the core things that you do, and becoming an expert at it, versus knowing a little about a lot and never really doing well at anything. Likewise, that's how business really is, right? Like you said, follow up with people, get back to them, have conversation, be a human being to them, and do that at scale over years. And it's amazing how many people don't do that, but they know to do it, but they don't.
I know, yeah. Your jiu-jitsu reference reminds me of the Bruce Lee quote, which I know you know, but I don't fear the person that knows 10,000 punches. I fear the person that knows one punch and has practiced it and become an expert 10,000 times. That's where it's at. Right. And too many people, that kind of leads into the mindset of shiny object syndrome. Too many people think, oh, I'm going to do that thing, whatever that thing is. We all see it online, Facebook, bots this or whatever marketing little gadget, and I'm going to try that. for the 10 seconds that I've tried it and it just didn't work. Well, it probably would have worked if you had given a little bit of time. But it gets back to those fundamentals, and I really feel like this. It's all about relationships, and then if you can let technology enhance that, then technology becomes really, really helpful. But don't use it in lieu of developing rapport and relationships.
Right. Ultimately, in our business, long term, it's a success is a function of who you know.
Yeah.
And with our business model constructed on the direct sales organizational structure, you want to work with people that you trust, that aren't going to one up you or do something to damage your business. And and yes, commissions and lead programs and all this certainly matters, but most of us have to partner with uplines, as we call them. And those uplines have to be trusted because they're charged with a very important responsibility to take care of us. And relationships ultimately are the biggest thing that matter in this business long term. And, if you're getting into insurance, whether it's selling clients and developing relationships with them or recruiting agents and developing relationships with them, you have to keep that front and focus the whole time.
100%. So let's shift gears into talking about when an insurance professional wants to grow their business and they get engaged with your brand and they hear that, you're a little bit different than most people. It's not the turn and burn and smile and dial and just get them in and move on. You're taking a solid approach. What are some of the first things that you're going to teach them that typically these agents are not doing, but is the low-hanging fruit for success?
Sure. So there are a couple of things in no particular order. First of all, you have to learn a system around both selling the product and marketing the product. Luckily, this business that we're in, it's old, it's boring, we already know what works, and it's fairly predictable at scale. So what we take is, again, like we talked about earlier, what are the fundamentals of connecting with prospects, with fact-finding, pre-qualifying, building our value proposition in contrast with others, and how do we convince them to purchase from us without pushing them against their will. Mm-hmm. And so we train them a process to learn all this. There's opportunities to listen to other agents who have done the same, recorded sales calls to help visualize what they will be doing. There's opportunities for role playing, which I think is critical in the development of any kind of salesperson. They need to actually practice what they're trying before they go out and experiment on a prospect. And on top of that, the other aspect is you have to have people to see in this business. So you can be very well prepared to sell insurance, but if you don't have a system to bring you prospects that have a marginal level of interest at a minimum, it's all for naught. So we focus more on the purchase lead program. We don't do referral marketing. It's not that we're against it. It's just what works in this business is buying leads. Funnily enough, direct mail leads, old-fashioned, but still works pretty well.
Yeah.
And buying them at scale, following a process to go see them, and just rinse and repeat.
Well, I think, first of all, whatever works is what you continue to do, and if it's buying leads, that's wonderful. And I would suspect that then the approach of those, because those leads, they're like the old lending tree back in the day when you put your name in for mortgage or whatever the case is and just get dozen and all of a sudden it's just like delete, just make it stop. So how do you stand out? Many times it's just your approach. I mean, many times maybe, and I know you've got it dialed in, but I'm sure that you are going to approach that new lead, that new prospect with something that is not pushy and salesy. It's more helpful, telling, and hey, if we can help, let us know. And that it's almost like that nonchalant, not a push away, but that nonchalant approach attracts people to you. So that's wonderful to hear. And direct mail, I mean, how many of us spend so much time on email and text and all those things that you go out to the mailbox and there's like 4 pieces of mail in there and 3 of them are junk. Well, if you have a mail piece that is engaging, maybe direct mail now for that target market. Now, if you're selling to teenagers, you're not going to use direct mail, but to your market, that's going to cut through the clutter.
Right. Yeah, it is funny though in our business, the act of buying life insurance is probably the most intangible product in America or much of the world. because with our product, you got to die to get it, right?
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you got to pay these premiums, and you wonder, hopefully it'll actually pan out, but you won't be here to see if it does. So there is an element, there's a duality for sure. You want to, we call it the Socratic diplomatic method. We ask open-ended questions. We help the client decide for themselves that what we're offering is sensible for them and the alternativism is good. But we are persistent. We're not pushy. We're persistent. We show up at the door unannounced with the card in hand because, frankly, people screen their numbers and they don't want to talk to anybody, understandably. Wow. But it's funny. Less people are knocking on doors to sell insurance. So you that's a way to separate yourself. You get to see the human being in person, make eye contact, shake hands, and show them that you're not a threat. Yeah. And you would be shocked at how many people still let you in the door these days and then buy from you on the first visit. Well,
anytime that you ask someone their, 10 people's opinion, you're going to get 427, variations of it. But one thing that I would say to you is, for me personally, if I looked out my window because the doorbell rang, if someone's standing there with a clipboard, I'm not answering the door. So I'm sure you figured out the nuances to stand back and have a smile and ask whatever the question is. And, we had someone literally the last weekend come to the house, and my wife answered the door, and they were like, I guess you're the queen of the castle, aren't you? And immediately it just puts her on edge like, what? So I know you figured that out, but let's think about something. How many of your competitors are doing that? I would probably have to use a calculator and figure out, 0. So if that's the path that most people are not going down, and you find producers that are willing to do that, you all of a sudden have narrowed, the choices down and increased your opportunity. Doesn't mean that's a easy sale. It still takes work and time and all of that, but I really applaud that is a unique approach, really, but it's not unique. It's going back to old school, but today it's unique because nobody's doing it.
Well, it's a funny thing, the first thing we teach agents is you have to remind yourself that you are not your prospect. We as salespeople are all more, aware of the sales techniques. And so we're that much more on notice of it when it happens to us. Yeah. But in our market, at least, and I can only speak to my people that we prospect, we're dealing with older Americans. They're lonely, and especially with the COVID lockdowns, a lot of them haven't talked to anybody. And it's strange to think, and even in 2021, that people are willing to talk to strangers, that there's a lot of older people that don't, converse or have friendships, and it's nice to talk to somebody who's just dropped in, and it's old-fashioned like they are, and a lot of them are, at least, and it doesn't work for all of them. We get the same stuff that you kind of experience for sure, but there's enough of them that it still sets a point of differentiation and gets us indoors where otherwise we wouldn't have gotten them to answer the phone. Yeah. People.
Oh, 100%. That's really amazing. So from there, let's say that you have that conversation. Just out of curiosity, we'll wrap up with this because we can probably talk for about 9 more hours on strategy. Right. But let's say that the meeting goes well. I'm confident that you're not writing policies and taking payments right there on that meeting because you got to build the trust. What are you advising your agents? What's the next step after you shake hands and wave and say, "What a nice visit"? What is the next step that you're advising them to do?
Well, it's a one-call close, so we're getting the sale completed now. But we want as little friction as possible, and because we're dealing with retirees, they are on a fixed income. Yeah. So generally, our strategy is to get the client approved medically for coverage, because with life insurance, you have to go through what we call the business prevention department, the underwriters. You got to make sure that the prospect is acceptable. So there's always that part of it. But once they're approved, we don't take the money usually up front. We set it up to come out of their bank accounts automatically as soon as they get their check deposited every month. And they're very thankful for that because they live month to month, a lot of them, and they want to make sure it's well budgeted. And that's that. It's a very transactional business in the sense of you don't go back and have to follow up with clients. You maybe want to call every year just to check in and see if you can help out with anything else. But beyond that, it's over and done with. It's the big appeal of final expense life insurance. It's one call and it's done, and you either sell it or you don't.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, listen, I really appreciate your insights. It's such a refreshing interview to talk to someone that's not using the word bot or automation or, I mean, nothing wrong with those things necessarily, but I love It's like, look, let's just go roll up our sleeves and talk to people and be human with people. So I really think that's awesome, David. I think that's a recipe for success. So thank you so much for coming on. What's the best way, if anyone's listening to this, what's the best way they can reach out, connect with you, pick up copies of your books, listen to your podcast and YouTube channel?
Sure. Yeah. So a couple of places you can go, davidduford.com. If you want to check out my website and what my agency is all about, you'll see how you can purchase my books from there. And then also, if you're the kind that likes to watch video or listen to audio, just go to YouTube and put my name in, David Duford, D-U-F-O-R-D, and you'll go down the black hole of YouTube video content pretty quickly with all the videos I've got. I've been doing it for about 7 years, so plenty there to watch.
Awesome. Well, David, thank you so much for coming on today. It was really a great pleasure talking with you.
You too. Thank you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.